Yes.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay. Welcome to this lesson. We said last time we said we're going to do nutrition in plants and animals. So you're going to start the process of photosynthesis. And just a recap, of course, we've done this. We're going to move very fast, and then, of course, after that, we'll continue from wherever we stop. I think in school we stopped at chemicals of life. We dealt with the carbohydrates. We dealt with the that is monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. And we were doing proteins, and other proteins we were to look at enzymes. So we're just going to do a recap on photosynthesis, nutrition in plants, and then after that, we're going to continue from wherever we stopped. I think in the next lesson, just a recap, and we continue. Tuko pamoja?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Now, for nutrition in plants and in animals, an introduction of it, we know that nutrition can be divided into two major modes. Yeah. The two major modes are what? What are the two major modes of nutrition?
Autotrophic and heterotrophic.
Autotrophism and heterotrophism, correct? So you'll find that autotrophism cannot be divided any further, but heterotrophism can be divided further into smaller modes. And these modes, whenever you ask, for example, for a given mode of a given organism, to give a mode for a given organism, mode of nutrition for a given organism, I'll not expect you to mention heterotrophism because heterotrophism is very wide. So you find that we have Holozoic, we have herbivorous, omnivorous, carnivorous, we have symbiotic, we can also have commensalism. All those are modes of nutrition that are particular to organisms. So if, for example, you're told to state the mode of nutrition for a goat, for example, you will not say heterotrophic. The goat is herbivorous. Yes. So the goat is herbivorous. So, as I have told you, it's only in plants that you can talk of autotrophism as one wide mode of nutrition and cannot be divided any further. So under autotrophism, you're going to look at the plants and the process of photosynthesis. Process of photosynthesis occurs in a leaf. Of course, you know that, and I've shared the leaves there, the external structure of a leaf. We have net veined leaves, and we have parallel veined leaves, the way you see them. And all these parts labeled have specific functions, apart maybe from a few. But what you should know is to know all those parts of a leaf. So we don't even have to go further and look at their functions. Like, for example, we're talking of leaf veins, midrib, petiole. Yeah, all those at least to know, we don't have to redo that. But what we want us to do is now the internal structure of a leaf, just a review of the internal structure of a leaf. And we're going to look at it. the internal structure of a leaf is that's the internal structure of a leaf. Of course, this is something that we've also looked at. This structure of the leaf will also enable you to know how the leaf is adapted to the process of photosynthesis. And before we look at that process of photosynthesis, it's important for you to understand this structure of the leaf. And of course, it's something that you've already learned. We're only going to go through it very fast. You can see the leaf is made up of, starting from the upper epidermis or the cuticle, the upper cuticle to the lower cuticle. Yeah. Now, what's the function of a cuticle?
It prevents entry of disease-causing organisms.
One, prevents entry of disease-causing microorganisms. What else? Function of the cuticle?
It is also transparent to allow light to penetrate into photosynthetic cells.
Transparent to allow penetration of light to the photosynthetic tissue. Any other? Transparent to allow light to penetrate into the photosynthetic tissue.
It prevents the internal cells from mechanical damage.
Mechanical damage. So majorly, it plays the role of protection. Plays the role of protection of any other structures within the leaf. Transparent to allow light into the photosynthetic tissue. Correct. Function of the epidermis or just epidermis? Function of the epidermis.
It secretes the cuticle, which protects the leaf from mechanical damage.
It secretes the cuticle, correct? Any other?
It is transparent to allow penetration of light to the photosynthetic cell.
Transparent to allow penetration of light. Any other? Cuticle.
It also prevents the entry of disease-causing organisms.
Entry of disease-causing microorganisms. So almost the same function as that of the cuticle. It is transparent, just like the cuticle. What you should know about the cuticle is that the cuticle is made up of dead cells. Actually, you will say it has no cells, not actually dead cells. It has no cells. That's the cuticle. So you can just describe it as non-living. So the cells now start at the upper epidermis. And one unique thing about the epidermal cells is that they don't have chloroplasts. In fact, that's what makes it also become a specialized cell, because having no chloroplast, and yet it is a plant cell. All plant cells are expected to have chloroplasts. That's also one key feature about epidermis. And when you'll be describing the adaptations of parts of the leaf, we can also mention the epidermis to be transparent to allow light into the photosynthetic cells. And the reason why it is transparent is because it does not have chloroplasts. It does not have chloroplasts. Chloroplasts may, of course, are darkened as pigments, and we get that it might hinder light from getting into the palisade mesophyll. Right. So we've done with the cuticle. We are done with the upper epidermis. Cuticle and together with the epidermis are transparent to allow light into the photosynthetic tissue, which is actually the palisade mesophyll. So the palisade mesophyll, you can see where the palisade mesophyll is. The whole of this, the whole of that is the palisade mesophyll. So what is the function of the whole of this? The way I'm drawing it is the palisade mesophyll, just next to the upper epidermis. So what is the function? Or we are also going to measure the adaptive features of the palisade mesophyll. Functions, basically just describe it. Yeah, one description, the functions and adaptive features. Yes, who is this? Elvis.
They have numerous chloroplasts which have chlorophyll, which is necessary for photosynthesis.
Yes. Numerous chloroplasts, not just chloroplasts, they have numerous chloroplasts that, of course, have chlorophyll that is used to trap light for photosynthesis. And then, looking at that, staying at that point, first of all, because it's a photosynthetic tissue, then that's where photosynthesis takes place. The palisade mesophyll is where photosynthesis takes place. That's why it has numerous chloroplasts. So basically, its adaptive feature. Can somebody mention the adaptive features of this photosynthetic palisade mesophyll layer? Yes, Muyeko?
The way they are arranged, it enables them to receive as much sunlight as possible.
How are they arranged?
They have the long axis perpendicular to the surface and they are closely packed.
Yes, they are closely packed. Closely packed there ensures that no light is lost to enable it to trap as much light as possible. Jakai?
They are located close to the upper epidermis and the cuticle. Thus, it enables them to receive maximum sunlight.
You can see the place where it is found. It's just beneath the upper epidermis. That's how to describe it best. Palisade mesophyll layer is just beneath the upper epidermis. This one, in fact, reduces this distance of light traveling so that it is able to absorb as much light as possible to carry out the process of photosynthesis. Any other adaptive feature of the palisade mesophyll? Muyeko still? Muyeko?
There is no other.
There isn't any other? Well, how many have you mentioned? We've said it's closely packed. It has numerous chloroplasts. It is
Closer to the upper epidermis.
Yes.
Yeah, just beneath the upper epidermis. So there isn't any other.
No.
Correct. Because I saw your hand up, that's why I called on you. Now, So you'll find that all those are adaptive features of the palisade mesophyll. It is where a lot of photosynthesis takes place. Most of the photosynthesis takes place, and that's why it is referred to as a photosynthetic layer. Now, all the adaptive features that I've mentioned enables it to carry out photosynthesis well. So you'll find that the numerous chloroplasts there, when you're talking of cytoplasmic streaming, let's mention something to do with cytoplasmic streaming. What is cytoplasmic streaming? Edwin?
This is the movement of substances, the motion of substances in the cytoplasm.
Correct. Now, in relation to the palisade layer, palisade cells, what will you say? Cytoplasmic streaming in the palisade cells. Say something about that. How does it apply into the palisade cells? Any trial? Cytoplasmic streaming in the palisade cells in relation to light intensity. Yes, Godwin.
I don't know in relation to light intensity, but I thought that the cytoplasm streaming enables the glucose that is formed in the process of photosynthesis to be moved around the cell for other functions, to meet the other functions. But in terms of light intensity, I don't know.
You're saying the photosynthetic, you've said that enables glucose form to move within the cell.
Yes, to be moved to the other parts of the cell.
Of course, when glucose is formed within the chloroplast and it is released into the cytoplasm of the cells. So probably we do not expect it to be moving within the cytoplasm. But in relation to the cells, I can see Muyeku.
The chloroplasts, when there is a lot of light, the chloroplasts, they move down. They move downwards away from the epidermis so that they cannot be affected. They cannot be denatured. Well, when there is low light intensity, they move up so that they can absorb as much light as possible.
Correct. Correct. But this not to denature, it's not denaturing. Chloroplast can never be denatured. Chloroplast or chlorophyll can be destroyed, not denatured. So
Okay.
use the right terminology. Now, that is correct. When there's very high light intensity, you should know that chlorophyll is usually destroyed by high light intensity. So we get that those chloroplasts which contain chlorophyll will now move to the lower side of the cells, moving away from the upper epidermis to the lower side of the cells. This one is to avoid a lot of light, which may destroy them. But when the light intensity is low, the chloroplasts move up so that they are able to trap as much light as possible for the process of photosynthesis. And this is what we refer to as cytoplasmic streaming. So in short, we are trying to say that chlorophyll is destroyed by high light intensity, high light intensity. And you get still, light is the one that is used to make chlorophyll. Get that one clearly? Somebody says he's not hearing me. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I'm saying a high light intensity destroys chlorophyll. And then another thing I've said is that light energy is used to make chlorophyll. This one can be illustrated by if, for example, you cover a certain part of grass to stay in darkness for some time, and just certain part of grass in darkness, like a container, for example, cover it with a container. After like 3 or 1 week, let's say 1 week, what is observed? What is the color of the grass?
Yellowish.
Yes, it
Yellowish,
looks
correct.
brown.
Yeah. And what is the color of chlorophyll?
Green.
Green.
Yes, green. So if this grass is yellowish, what does it mean?
It lacks
Chlorophyll.
chlorophyll.
Correct. It lacks chlorophyll. So that's now the demonstration to show that light is necessary for the manufacture of chlorophyll. So when you cover it in darkness for some time, that grass will grow taller and yellow. It is yellow because there was no light to make the chlorophyll. So I was trying to telling you that high light intensity will destroy chlorophyll, but still the light energy is still used for the manufacture of chlorophyll. So the reason why it's maybe taller than the rest, we shall learn about it in Form 3, about auxins, which are also destroyed by light and which are used for the growth, yeah, which are used for growth. So that one we shall learn about why they are taller than the rest around it, and why we've mentioned why they are yellow. So all that has come about by cytoplasmic streaming. Cytoplasmic streaming is important for you to know where substances within the cytoplasm move. Yeah. In relation to the palisade cells, so we are saying that chloroplasts will move to the lower part of the cells when the light intensity is high to avoid destruction of the chloroplast or of the chlorophyll cell. So, and when the light intensity is low, they move up, yeah, on the upper side towards the epidermis to trap as much light as possible for the process of photosynthesis. Good. Any question to do with that? We now look at the spongy mesophyll. What do you say about the spongy mesophyll there? Alvin?
They are loosely packed. They are loosely packed to allow the diffusion of gases between the cells.
Loosely packed to allow diffusion of gases. And these gases are majorly respiratory gases, which is oxygen and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is the one that is used for photosynthesis. So carbon dioxide will move through the stomatal openings and through the spongy mesophyll layer, and now get into the palisade mesophyll where photosynthesis takes place. And then the product of photosynthesis, which is oxygen, will also move from the palisade mesophyll through the spongy mesophyll layer, which is loosely packed, and get out through the stomatal openings. Correct. A few chloroplasts does lighter color on the upper side. Somebody is saying something here. Which ones there, Edwin, you're saying? What have fewer chloroplasts? That's
The cells of the spongy mesophyll.
the what? The chloroplasts.
The cells of the spongy mesophyll.
They have fewer chloroplasts.
Yes.
But you see it is covered by the palisade layer, which has numerous chloroplasts. So it is lighter color on the upper side or on the lower side. According to you, you've said it's on the upper side, but it's supposed to be?
Lower.
Yes, lower, correct. So, so that's what Edwin is saying. They have fewer chloroplasts. That is why the leaf is lighter green on the lower side, not on the upper side. On the upper side, it is darker because of the chlorophyll, numerous chloroplasts with chlorophyll in the palisade mesophytes. All right, so going back to whatever we are saying, of course, it's a plant cell, it has chloroplast, and of course, the chloroplast cannot be compared to to that of palisade mesophyll. Yes, we can also now see there's the vascular bundle there. What is the purpose, photosynthetic purpose of the vascular bundle? Vascular bundle is made up of xylem and phloem.
They are used to transport food and mineral sources in the plants.
All right, when you that's correct, but specify which one and answer it in relation to photosynthesis. Answer the question in relation to photosynthesis. What is the answer to that? Function of the xylem and the phloem vessels in relation to photosynthesis. Same, Alvin?
The phloem conducts food material to other parts of the plant that has been made during photosynthesis.
The xylem?
The xylem conducts water and mineral salts.
In relation to photosynthesis, Brian, what will you say, Manzia?
Is the work of the xylem in accordance to photosynthesis. Its work is to transport water and mineral salts from the root to the photosynthetic cells.
Transport water and mineral salts. Of course, that's the general function of the xylem. But the key thing here, you'll talk of water, right? Water is the one that is used for the process of photosynthesis. So if you ask, state the adaptive feature of the xylem to photosynthesis, you now say its work is to transport water, which is a raw material in the process of photosynthesis, to the palisade layer. Yeah, transport water for photosynthesis to the palisade mesophyll layer. Then for phloem, I expect you to say it will now transport away products of photosynthesis, because you will not allow these substances after they have been produced to accumulate in the leaf. So it will be removed from the leaf by the phloem to other parts of the plant. So if you mention phloem vessels, then you'll have to talk about removal of end products of photosynthesis to other parts of the plant. Okay, so that is to do with the spongy mesophyll layer. Now we look at the lower epidermis. What will you say about the lower epidermis? David Nyonji. David? You David ako na sisi ama hayuko na sisi? David Nyonji, please answer the question. Avoid I can see you're the one talking and people talking from the background. To class, David. David Nyonji, please answer the question. I said, what is the adaptive feature of the lower epidermis? Yes, David. David, uko pamoja?
Yes.
Yes, please answer the question. Have you heard the question? I'm a bad.
Bad.
I'm saying we are describing the structure of the leaf, and of course, the adaptive features of the leaf. Now we are looking at the lower epidermis. How is it adapted in any way? Yeah. I'm not getting you, David. Are you answering the question or
I don't know the answer.
Yeah?
I don't know the answer.
Are you sure? What are you
Yes.
seeing on the lower epidermis? Are you seeing any structure in the lower epidermis?
Yes.
Yes, what is it? What are you able to see?
There are some guard cells.
Yes, what is usually the function of the guard cells?
Protect inner tissues from mechanical damage.
Guard cells? Function of the guard cells?
Control water loss.
Control?
Water loss.
Not really controlling water loss. David Njenga, jibu swali, what is the function of the guard cells? David Njenga, tuko pamoja?
Yes, madam.
Yes. What is the function of the guard cells?
They facilitate the opening and closing of the stomata to let in gases for such as carbon dioxide for photosynthesis.
Correct. They control opening and closing of stomata, allowing in carbon dioxide to be taken up by the palisade cells for the process of photosynthesis. They are also open to allow what out? What does it allow out? What product of photosynthesis does it allow out?
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
Correct. So that is adaptive feature of the lower epidermis. Of course, when you're talking of the guard cells or the stomata, they are majorly in most leaves usually found at the lower epidermis. But in some of the leaves, you'll find them on the upper epidermis. Which type of leaves do you expect stomata to be on the upper epidermis?
Plants that grow in very wet areas.
Correct. Those that grow on water or grow in a lot of water, that is hydrophytes. Hydrophytes usually have the epidermis, the upper epidermis with stomata to allow more water to be lost. So whichever kind of epidermis that you get the stomata, its function is either to allow water in and out, to allow water out, or to allow in carbon dioxide gases, respiratory gases in and out. And for this case, if you're talking of photosynthesis, in reference to photosynthesis, we'll only talk of getting in carbon dioxide for the process of photosynthesis to be taken up by the leaves, by the palisade cells for the process of photosynthesis, and also to take out the oxygen, which is a product of photosynthesis. All right. So now that's the structure of the leaf. It's very important for you to be able to know the structure, the diagram, and also be able just to draw it. You can easily sketch it and label. As long as you know the parts, then you'll be able to even state their functions. Yeah, you'll be able to state their functions. And it's important for you to know the internal structure of the leaf the way we know it now. Yes, Godwin, do you have a question or what is it? I can see your hand up.
I'd forgotten to lower my hand, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Now, so in short, you've even done the summary of the adaptation of the leaf to the photosynthetic tissue. Yeah. Is there any that you've forgotten, for example? Adaptations of the leaf to its photosynthetic function. We mentioned about the palisade mesophyll having plenty of chloroplasts. We've also mentioned the upper epidermis being transparent to allow penetration of light. We've mentioned the existence of the xylem and the phloem used for supply of water, xylem, and removal of products of photosynthesis, which is the phloem. We've also mentioned about the existence of the stomata, which allows in carbon dioxide to the photosynthetic layer and removal of oxygen, which is a product of photosynthesis. And we've also mentioned the adaptive features of the spongy mesophyll layer, which have irregularly shaped cells for easier diffusion of gases. Is there any other?
Pardon?
I'm saying, is there any other adaptation of the leaf to its photosynthetic function apart from what we've mentioned? Any other? The others we've left out. Yeah, good.
The leaf is generally narrow to allow faster diffusion of the gas that will take part in photosynthesis.
Leaf narrow or thin?
Yes, thin.
To do what?
Because it is thin, it allows diffusion to take place faster. So the gases will be obtained faster for the photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide will be obtained faster.
Reduce the distance of movement of gases.
The leaves of the plants are arranged in a way that they minimize overlapping to ensure that all leaves receive sunlight.
Leaf mosaic, correct? They are arranged in a branch in a way that they don't overlap to allow maximum absorption of light. Monzia?
And the leaves lamina, which is for absorption of carbon dioxide.
Broad lamina, which provides a large surface area for absorption of carbon dioxide. All right. So basically, that is a adaptive feature of the leaf to its photosynthetic function. Basically, you can say those are the adaptive features, and it's very important for you also to know that. Godwin says, or you've forgotten again.
Yes, the presence of stomata that ensures efficient diffusion of carbon dioxide.
Yeah, that one you mentioned. So we're only mentioning those that we haven't mentioned. All right. So now we want to look at the chloroplast. We want to look at the chloroplast. That is a key organelle that is used for the process of photosynthesis. So we look at the structure of the chloroplast and also describe it further. So this is the chloroplast. You can see the chloroplast is double membrane. One of the key features, it's double membrane, is one of the double membrane organelles. We also have, it is usually the chloroplast and which other organelle that is double membrane?
The mitochondria.
Correct. Now, you can see the structure the way it is. It has inner and outer membrane. It has a stroma, which is usually jelly-like, a fluid-like part. And then we have the granum, which is packed with chlorophyll. We have the lamella, those are the extensions from the granum. We have the starch grain, and we have the lipid droplets. All those are usually products of photosynthesis. Those are products of photosynthesis. So it is important for you to know that. What is usually the function of stroma? What is the function of stroma in the chloroplast?
The stroma contains enzymes necessary for photosynthesis.
Correct. Stroma contains enzymes which are necessary for photosynthesis. Which stage occurs in the stroma? Which stage of photosynthesis occurs in the stroma? Which stage of photosynthesis occurs in the stroma? Still, David?
The dark stage.
Yeah, dark stage of photosynthesis. Dark stage of photosynthesis is reliant on enzymes which are found in the stroma. Then the granum, what is the function of granum? Brian?
The function of the granite is to increase surface area which can accommodate chlorophyll.
granum contains chlorophyll. So when we're talking of increased surface areas, because it is highly folded to increase surface area to contain chlorophyll. What stage of photosynthesis occurs in the granum? Okay. Let me just choose. There are some people here. If I don't mention their names, tutaendelea tu hivyo na Ibrahim. Ibrahim. Kuna mtu hapa anaitwa Ibrahim Huka. Yuko ama hayuko? Ibrahim hayuko. Last time we did Jamal. Jamal huko ama hauko?
Niko lakini sisikii vizuri.
Haujasikia swali?
Sisikii.
Shida iko wapi usikii?
Sijui lakini sikusikii vizuri.
Why? Okay, fine. You have so much noise behind you. That is why you're not hearing. At least umesikia nikikuita.
Nasikia nasikia.
Please kindly move to where there's no noise. Please move where there's no noise. Sasa unanisikia?
Yes.
Jamal?
Nasikia.
Okay, so I was asking. What is the function of, what stage of photosynthesis occurs in the granule? I hope everybody's hearing me now. Tuko sawa? Let me just get
Yes.
Training. Just training.
Yes.
Okay, sawa.
Yes.
So, Jamal, I want you to answer that question. What stage of photosynthesis occurs in the granule? What stage occurs, what stage of photosynthesis occurs in the granule?
Light stage.
Light stage, correct. Lakini tukue pamoja, wewe, move from where there is noise. Yeah. Move from where there is noise or use a microphone.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Now, so that is the chloroplast. It's a very important structure, or very important organelle that is found in the leaves, and it is through this that the process of photosynthesis occurs. Now we will want to look at now the process of photosynthesis. Now, what you should know about photosynthesis is it's a process where plants manufacture their own food and uses light to manufacture its own food. So the key thing I emphasize on photosynthesis is, one, know the raw materials. Secondly, know the conditions. And thirdly, know the products. Raw materials, conditions, and products. So what are the raw materials of photosynthesis? Raw materials of photosynthesis, Roy, Hilary?
Water and carbon.
Water and
Carbon.
carbon what?
Carbon for oxide.
Yes, it can't just be carbon. It's supposed to be a gas, carbon dioxide, water and carbon dioxide. And what are the conditions? What are the conditions, Buru? Buru amepotea. David?
Light energy and chlorophyll.
Light energy and chlorophyll, correct? Those are the conditions. And then what are the products? Let me choose from these others. Nick Kimathi, what are the products? Kimathi Nick?
Yes.
Niambie.
Pardon?
What are the products of photosynthesis? Nick,
Yes.
tuko pamoja? Yes. Give me the answer. Give us the answer. What are the products of photosynthesis? Okay, what are the raw materials for photosynthesis, Nick?
Water and carbon dioxide.
What are the conditions?
Sunlight. And the products are
Conditions are light and what?
oh, conditions. Conditions, you have sunlight.
And? Si tulikuwa tumemaliza hiyo. Kwani are you attentive or not attentive? Ni somebody
Yes.
has just answered the conditions, has answered the raw materials. I'm only telling you to repeat. So it means you're not attentive, huh? Are you attentive or not?
I'm attentive.
No, you aren't. Because you're not able to answer what has just been mentioned. Job query.
Yeah.
Can you give us the conditions for the process of photosynthesis?
Sunlight and the presence of chlorophyll.
Light energy and chlorophyll, what are the products? Query still.
The glucose and oxygen.
Correct. Glucose and oxygen. Please, these are things that you've already learned. You don't have to struggle to know. Because we learned it just a few weeks ago. I expect you to be knowing everything. Yeah. So, of course, the reactants or the raw materials are carbon dioxide and water. The conditions are light, energy, and chlorophyll, and the products are glucose and oxygen. So when writing an equation, that one will also guide you. In the writing of equation, it will guide you to know. You'll find that the reactants are actually the raw materials, yeah? While the conditions are the ones that are written over the arrow. And then the product, of course, on the equation side, you find that they are on the product side, which is glucose and oxygen. So this, especially the conditions in the raw materials, are the ones which will still guide you to know. They're the ones which will guide you to know the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. When you be looking at the factors affecting rate of photosynthesis, you'll basically mention the raw materials and the conditions. Because raw materials here, you'll talk about carbon dioxide concentration, water availability, intensity of light, and chlorophyll, quantity of chlorophyll, amount of chlorophyll. You can see those are already 5 factors. And then now later on, you'll now add temperature, because photosynthesis is an enzyme controlled reaction. So temperature effect of high or extreme temperatures will have an effect on the enzymes. So it's important for you to know, writing the equation, knowing the raw materials, and knowing the conditions. Knowing raw materials, products. Okay, so the whole process of photosynthesis is quite elaborate, it's quite wide, yeah. But what we only learn is a summary, basically a summary of the process of photosynthesis. And this is what you should know. Because if you get into details to know the whole process of photosynthesis, it's quite detailed. But for your level, you don't have to get into those details unless you go further with the learning of this in your education in future. Now, for this moment, now we look at the light stage of photosynthesis, what we refer to as light-dependent stage. So we talk, the process of photosynthesis is divided into 2 stages. You have the light stage, the light-dependent stage, then you have the dark stage, which is light-independent stage. Kindly note that photosynthesis occurs during the day. Photosynthesis occurs when there is light. So when you divide this process into 2 as the light stage and the dark stage, it simply means there's one that the light stage requires light. It is dependent on light. The dark stage does not depend on light, but it does not mean that the dark stage occurs at night. That's one major mistake students make, that imagining that dark stage occurs at night. Dark stage simply means this particular stage of photosynthesis which is dependent on light, photosynthesis which occurs during the day. This dark stage means it is a stage where it does not depend on light. Please get that one clear. Light stage of photosynthesis. Light stage of photosynthesis. Let me pick on somebody just to mention. I need the Sikona. Yes, Sikona, tuko pamoja?
Yes.
Yes. Can you say something to do with the light stage of photosynthesis?
It is the initial stage of photosynthesis.
What happens?
is used to split oxygen, to split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen atoms.
Oxygen what? Atoms or oxygen gas? Hydrogen what?
Oxygen and hydrogen atoms.
All right, light energy is used to split the water molecules into hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas. Hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas. Where does this process occur? Omuro Yatani?
Yes.
Where does the process of the light stage occur? Where does it take place? Omuro? Yatani, are we together?
Yes.
Yes. Where does light stage occur? In the chloroplast. Which part? Give us the answer, Omuro.
I don't know.
Yes? Omuro uko wapi? Unasema nini? What are you saying, Omuro? Yatani, you stop wasting our time. Please tell us the answer or give us the way forward.
I can't remember.
Why can't you remember? And to mention too hapa sahi when we were describing the chloroplast. You can't say you can't remember, and you just described what the chloroplast is, all the parts that are found in the chloroplast, and the functions of all those parts. So why do you say you can't remember? Are you attentive? Are you attentive, Yatani?
Yes.
You're not. How will I know that you are attentive? You are not able to answer the question that I've just described. So I need everybody to be attentive. That is why I'm not just picking on a few individuals. I'm trying to pick everybody here. So that usikuwa umeweka tu hapo logged in and yet you're not in class. Yeah? So where does light stage occur, Elvis?
In the granum.
In the granum, correct. We mentioned that and we described it very well, the function of the stroma and the function of the granum. All right, what else? Whatever that has been explained is that water molecules are split by light energy. The light energy trapped by chlorophyll splits the water molecules into hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas in the process of course referred to as what? Austin?
Photolysis.
Photolysis, correct. So the process is referred to as photolysis. What else happens in the light stage apart from the process of photolysis? What else happens in the light stage apart from the process of photolysis?
Formation of ATP.
Talking of ATP, what is ATP in for?
Adenosine triphosphate.
Okay, formation of adenosine triphosphate. How is it formed? How is adenosine triphosphate formed?
The light energy is converted into chemical energy, which in turn is used to manufacture the adenosine triphosphate.
All right, correct. Usually, the light energy that is trapped, some of it is used for photolysis, the rest is phosphate, which is used in the dark stage. It's very useful in the dark stage. So now we get to, so what we've said about the light stage is that photolysis occurs, which means that chlorophyll traps light energy, which is used to split the water molecules into hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas. Please note that we are talking about hydrogen atoms or hydrogen ions and oxygen gas or oxygen molecules. Get the difference. If you say it produces oxygen atoms, it is wrong. If you say it produces hydrogen gas, is wrong. So it is either H, that is a symbol for hydrogen, H, but not H2. H2 is a hydrogen molecule, which is also the same as hydrogen gas. But what is produced is H without anything, or H positive, which is hydrogen ion. If you confuse those two, then you'll be wrong. You won't get anything right. Yeah, oxygen molecules or oxygen gas, hydrogen atoms or hydrogen ions. So oxygen is usually removed from the chloroplast and getting out of the leaf as a product of a byproduct of photosynthesis. But hydrogen atoms are the ones that are usually taken to the dark stage. The energy produced, or the ATP that's produced from the conversion of the solar energy to the ATP, is also used in the dark stage. So if you asked what substances get to the dark stage from the light stage, it's two. We have the hydrogen atoms and adenosine triphosphate. Still the same thing. If you ask what gets into the dark stage from the light stage, I expect you to say hydrogen atoms and not hydrogen ions. Why? Why do you think you'll be wrong if you said what gets into the dark stage from the light stage is hydrogen ions? Any trial? Usually whatever gets from the light stage to the dark stage is hydrogen atoms and ATP, but not hydrogen ions. Why would you be wrong to say hydrogen ions? Anybody with an answer for that? Hakuna mtu ako na jibu? It's because when you're in any given reaction, you'll find out that a reaction or a substance will react to form an ion. Ions are stable compounds or are stable substances, but atoms are still reactive. So when you're talking of the dark stage, there's a reaction that is going to take place. So this reaction cannot react with an ion, which is already stable. It will only react with an atom, which is still reactive. So that's why we talk of hydrogen atoms getting into the dark stage, but not hydrogen ions. But when you mention about photolysis, if you said hydrogen ions are produced and oxygen gas, will still be right. Will be right. All right, now we look at the dark stage. Can somebody just describe dark stage of photosynthesis? Aaron Wangoliko. Yes, describe the dark stage. What can you say about dark stage?
I'd say that the dark stage occurs in the stroma of chloroplasts and is independent of light.
All right. Anything else?
Carbon dioxide combines with the hydrogen ions to form simple carbohydrates.
Carbon dioxide combines with what?
With hydrogen ions to form simple carbohydrates.
What have I just said? Hydrogen ions. Do we still use hydrogen ions? What do we use? Elvis?
Atoms.
Hydrogen atom. I've just described why you're not supposed to talk about ions in the reaction. So carbon dioxide combines with hydrogen atoms. We usually see that it's 4 hydrogen atoms that are produced from the light stage to get into the dark stage. So the 4 hydrogen atoms are the ones that combine with carbon dioxide to form a simple carbohydrate and water. So you can see that water is produced also, again, which is still can be reutilized. Now, this process is dependent on energy and also involves a series of enzymes. So that's what you should know. It occurs in the stroma, just like Aaron has said. And in the stroma, as we said, it usually has what? Has enzymes. Yeah, usually has enzymes that are used for the process. So carbon dioxide fixation requires enzymes. Yeah. Are we together?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. So that's what we refer to as carbon dioxide fixation. Carbon dioxide fixation. The process is carbon dioxide reacting with hydrogen atoms to form simple carbohydrate and water. So you'll usually find water as a raw material, as a reactant of the process of photosynthesis. So the water that is produced in the dark stage is usually reutilized. So this carbon dioxide fixation is dependent on enzymes as well as energy. The energy was the one that was brought from the light stage, that was carried from the light stage to the dark stage. So that's as simple as that. Any question to do with that? Any question? All right. So as I had described to you, I told you, please, all these occur during the day. The whole of the process of photosynthesis occurs during the day. And do not confuse dark stage with night. Now let's look at factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. What are these factors? Ephraim, Nyururu? Ephraim?
Sir, pardon the question.
Yeah. Yes.
I said state the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. Ephraim. I'm not getting you clearly. Repeat. Carbon dioxide what?
Carbon 4 oxide.
Yes, not
Concentration.
just, yes, it can't just be carbon dioxide. It has to be carbon dioxide concentration or amount of carbon dioxide. Godwins?
The temperature, because photosynthesis is reliant on enzymes.
Correct. Any other? Munji? David?
Light
David
intensity.
Munji? Yes?
Light intensity.
Light intensity, correct. Any other?
Water.
What about water?
Water and carbon dioxide are the raw materials for photosynthesis, so it is also required by the plants.
Yes. So you will talk of amount of water, not just water. That's what I was asking. Water availability or amount of water, carbon dioxide concentration, light intensity, temperature, and lastly, Godwins.
Can we say chlorophyll?
Chlorophyll. Yes. So amount of chlorophyll will also determine amount of photosynthesis that takes place. Just like I had told you, I said you just look at the raw materials, look at the conditions. Yeah. Raw materials are 2, conditions are 2 also. Raw materials is carbon dioxide and water. Conditions are light energy and chlorophyll. All those contribute or become factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. You add temperature because it is enzyme controlled. Photosynthesis is enzyme controlled, and anything to do with enzyme controlled, it has to, temperature plays a big effect on it because enzymes are usually denatured at high temperatures or inactivated at very low temperatures. All right, so we're going to describe all those factors. Looking at, starting with the light intensity, for example. Light intensity, how light intensity affects the rate of photosynthesis. We mentioned that light intensity, increase in light intensity increases the rate of photosynthesis. As simple as that. And of course, when light reduces, then we also expect photosynthesis to reduce. Like just showing you this effect of, yes, this is a diagram from your books. Light intensity increases with the rate of photosynthesis increases the light intensity. Look at what I'm sharing there. And then you find that there's that range of optimum light intensity, and then after that, the curve flattens. So how would you describe, why does the curve flatten?
Other factors become limiting.
Other factors become limiting. Please describe that statement more. describe that statement further? What do you understand by that? Somebody to describe the statement. Why the curve flattens there is because other factors become limiting. And I want you to just to describe what does it mean to say light ceases to be a limiting factor, other factors become limiting. For example,
when we say
yes,
that
go
other
ahead.
factors become limiting, it means that from that point, the optimum light intensity for photosynthesis, when it surpasses the optimum light intensity, the quality of light, okay, the bright sunshine will damage the palisade cells will damage the chlorophyll. So photosynthesis will, the rate of photosynthesis will decrease. And can also say that, yes, the presence of UV light there will damage the chlorophyll, and photosynthesis will go down. That's how I understand it.
Saying light ceases to be a limiting factor, other factors become limiting. Of course, what you've described is something else different. Talking of high increased light intensities may damage the chlorophyll. But for this case, I don't think we've gotten to the intensity that destroys the chlorophyll. Here, we are still under, you can see the range of optimum light intensity. Yeah. Meaning, if other factors were present, the rate of photosynthesis will still continue to increase. So when you say other factors become limiting, is, for example, in this case, the light intensity is enough or more, but you'll find that carbon dioxide ceases to be there. If carbon dioxide ceases to be there and there is light, what does it mean? Will photosynthesis occur or not?
Not.
There'll be no photosynthesis, or because it will remain at that point because other factors are limited. Yeah, light intensity is there. There's enough light, but water has reduced. Yeah, if the water reduces to the extent that it's not able to carry out photosynthesis, that's when you say light ceases to be a limiting factor, or other factors become limiting. Yeah. So under light intensity, we can talk of the quality of light, and we can also talk of the duration. Yeah, duration of light. We can also talk of the quantity. So quantity of light, that is light intensity. Quality of light, that's the wavelengths. We have a certain kind of wavelengths that is used for photosynthesis. They are mostly red and blue wavelengths are the ones that are usually used for the process of photosynthesis. So that's now how we describe light quality. And then duration, of course, that one can still be under light intensity. During the day, we have the sun is so bright and the intensity is high, causing now more photosynthesis to take place. Yeah. So for the quality, then we shall talk of what kind of wavelength is existing for the process of photosynthesis to take place. All right, so that's light intensity. It's important for you to look at that curve and know it properly and understand why the curve levels off, or why the rate of photosynthesis becomes constant as the light intensity increases. Yeah, and also look at the range of optimum light intensity. Optimum light intensity. It's good that you should know that. So light intensity one of the major factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. And then also we shall look at the experiments that will be necessary for you to know how light affects the rate of photosynthesis. I think that one we shall look at it. You can see our time is over and the participants have really reduced. Kwa nini mnatoka mapema kabla lesson ijaisha? Is it because it is lunch time? Si lunch utakula, unaweza kuwa umekula saa 6, unaweza kuwa utakula saa 8. Even at 1:30 you can still eat.
Yes.
So I don't encourage people to leave the lesson before it ends. Yeah, we started as many people. Right now we are getting to number like 10 of us. So it's good that we have the lesson up to the end. All right, so I think we shall continue now with the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis and look at other factors, test on these factors, yeah, experiments to test whether light is necessary for the process of photosynthesis, or whether carbon dioxide concentration is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. So I think we shall look at that more in the next lesson. For now, I think we can stop there for today and we continue from there in the next lesson. So we can stop there unless you have a question. We can say bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes. See you in the next lesson.
Bye.
Bye.
Good. Bye.
Bye.